Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're tackling something that's been all over social media, this prediction of a rapture happening in September 2025. We're going to break it all down using the source material itself.
All right, let's just jump right in. This question right here from Reddit, it perfectly sums up what's been happening. I mean, you've probably seen it on TikTok or YouTube. This idea has absolutely exploded, and it's kicking up some serious debate. So we're going to dig into the source material and figure out, where's this even coming from? What's the history here? And what are the big arguments all about?
Okay, so Section 1, a viral prediction. Let's get right to it. Why September 2025? What's the big deal with that specific date? Let's break down the theory.
So here's how the argument goes. It's not just a random date pulled out of a hat. First, it lines up perfectly with the Jewish holiday Rosh Hashanah, which is also called the Feast of Trumpets. Now, if you're familiar with the Bible, proponents immediately connect that to a verse in 1 Thessalonians that talks about a trumpet call of God. Then you've got this whole other layer of people online sharing dreams and visions that they say confirm this. And to top it all off, there's even a geopolitical twist. Some are linking it to UN meetings around that time that might involve Israel.
So, it sounds like a pretty compelling case, right? But here's the big question we have to ask. Is this the first time someone has set a very specific date for the end of the world? I think you know the answer.
That leads us right into our second section, a history of timetables. Because believe me, this isn't a new thing at all. It's actually part of a very long tradition.
Man, this is a well-worn road. I mean, look at this timeline. We're talking about popes way back in 1284. Then you have the Millerites in the 1800s. Their failed prediction was so huge, it got its own name, the Great Disappointment. Fast forward and you see a whole bunch more in the 20th and 21st centuries. And what do they all have in common? Yep, the day came and the day went. Nothing happened.
Okay, let's talk about probably the biggest recent example, Harold Camping. Some of you are definitely going to remember this one from back in 2011. It was everywhere.
And when I say it was everywhere, I am not kidding. We're talking about over $100 million spent by his organization, Family Radio. Think about that. Thousands of billboards, caravans of people in RVs driving across the country, all telling everyone that May 21st, 2011 was it, the end.
So of course, May 22nd rolled around and crickets. But did they give up? Nope, they just revised the date. The new explanation was that May 21st was a spiritual judgment, and the real, physical end was coming just 5 months later on October 21st. And, well, you know how that story ends too. But here's the part of the story that's truly incredible. Less than a year after all that, Camping himself wrote a letter to his followers. And in it, he admitted the whole thing, trying to predict a date, was, in his own words, sinful. He said his critics, the ones pointing to Scripture, had been right from the very start.
All right, Section 3. To really get what's going on with the September 2025 prediction, we've got to understand the central idea here, the concept that this is all built around, the rapture.
So what even is the rapture? Well, the whole concept comes from this verse in 1 Thessalonians, where the Apostle Paul talks about believers being caught up together in the clouds to meet the Lord. It's a powerful image. But here's the thing. Even among Christians who believe this is going to happen, there's a huge disagreement about when it's supposed to happen.
And that when is where things get really interesting. See, the debate is all about a prophesied 7-year period of intense global suffering that's often called the tribulation. The big question is, does the church get taken out before that happens, during it, or after it's all over? And that question creates 3 main camps, which you can see laid out here.
So let's break that down. You've got the pre-tribulation camp. They believe the church gets raptured before that 7-year period of suffering even starts. It's like being rescued from the storm before it hits. Then you've got the post-tribulation camp. They argue that no, believers will go through the entire 7 years of persecution and hardship, and the rapture happens at the very end. And yeah, there are views that land in the middle too. For what it's worth, this whole September 2025 prediction, it's pretty firmly in that pre-trib camp. Okay, on to Section 4, the day and hour. Because this really is the heart of the conflict. It all comes down to how you interpret one very famous, very debated passage. All right, so here's the argument for being able to know the season, if not the exact hour. People who support the September 2025 idea, like this user on Reddit, make a really interesting point. They say when Jesus said no one knows the day or the hour, he wasn't just being vague,
He was using a Jewish idiom, a common phrase that pointed directly to the Feast of Trumpets. See, that feast was known as the one where no one knows the day or hour because it couldn't start until 2 witnesses actually saw the new moon. So the argument is, he wasn't saying it's impossible to know, he was giving a clue.
But then you have the counter-argument, and it's pretty straightforward. Critics say, just read the words on the page. In Matthew 24, Jesus says, "But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." To them, that's not an idiom. It's about as direct and clear as it gets. The information is locked down.
And this brings the whole debate right into 2024. You have leaders like Isaiah Saldivar basically saying, look, who are you going to trust? The Bible or some random YouTuber or TikToker making predictions? It's a very direct challenge to this new wave of social media prophecy. Okay, last section, the message of readiness. After looking at the history of failed dates and the theological debates, you have to ask, what's the point of all this? If setting dates is so problematic, what's the real takeaway? Well, according to the sources, there are some very real dangers to this whole date-setting game. It's not just about being wrong. People make huge, life-altering decisions based on this stuff. We heard about people draining their retirement funds for the 2011 prediction. When these things fail, it can totally shatter someone's faith. It also, frankly, makes Christianity look foolish to outsiders and shifts the whole focus away from just living a good life to trying to crack some secret code. So when you boil it all down, the message from those who are critical of date setting is pretty simple. They say we're asking the wrong question. The focus in the scriptures was never meant to be on calculating a date on the calendar. It's about cultivating a state of constant spiritual readiness.
And really, that's the final thought these sources leave us with. The whole idea is to focus not on when it might happen, but on how you're living your life today. So the ultimate question isn't, hey, what's the secret date? The real question is, are you ready today